Yo, what's going on guys? Jared here, and today we are going to be talking about Majespecter. But before we get to it, I need to start setting up something for the background, so give me 1 minute. Can you guys read that? It says Black Rose Dragon Matte. I got it, I swear. Okay, but in all seriousness, we are talking about Majespecter today, and I've actually been doing pretty well on rated with it. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly my match history, which I think is actually pretty interesting. I was trying to go 10 for 10, but I did lose the last one, unfortunately. But I am 9-1 with the deck on Dueling Book right now. I know these ratings aren't too crazy. I'm just like getting back into it. But overall, I think this is actually pretty good for a deck that is probably less than what I think is like without SP Little Knight, maybe like $100. So, but overall, let's go ahead and jump into the deck list a little bit. And I kind of want to talk about some of the like interactions and cards and issues with the deck, but also positives with the deck. Okay, guys, so here is the deck list that I have been playing with. I have been making small edits as the matches have been going on, so they're not all exactly the same. But this is where I'm at currently, and I'm really, really liking it at this current spot. Oh, by the way, if you are watching this and you are enjoying the content, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. But I want to jump into the card by card really quickly and then kind of talk about some of the interactions and stuff like that, because there's a little few nuances and deck building choices that you can make where I have not been liking yet. But first of all, like I said, we'll do card by card. So we have 3 Yada, 3 Bambuku, 3 Prosperity, 3 Wind, and 3 Porcupine. I usually put these as like the starter cards of the deck. The Porcupine and the Winds are like 1.5 starters. You need like a Majespecter monster plus this. But these are like the other starters that you can have. For like the non-engine type stuff, we have Ash, Fenrir's, Nibs, Talents, Imperms. Yeah, this has been working out very well for me so far. And then for the rest of the Majespecter cards, we have 1 Secret Village, 1 Tornado, 1 Tempest, 1 Cyclone, 1 Majesty Pegasus, 2 Fox, and 3 Toad. And then for the extra deck, we have 1 Zeus, 1 Typhon, 1 Artemis, 3 Orthros, 1 IP, 1 SP, 2 Draco, 1 Exceed the Pendulum, 1 Beyond the Pendulum, 1 Axis Code Talker, 1 Appaloosa, and 1 Selene. For the side deck, what I've currently been using is 2 Pank, 3 Droll, 3 Cosmic, 1 Harpies, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Necro Valley, and 3 Anti-Spell. So let's just talk about it a little bit, right? We have a couple of weird choices here, and I've looked at a lot of different lists online for inspiration for this deck. And the one thing that I can say is it's very split, I would say, between a couple different like options and variations. One of the main ones is the field spell. I want to talk about that for a second. As you can see, I am not playing it. So here, we have Majesty's Pegasus. This is a card that is kind of like the quick play spell, but it is in the field spell form and gives your guys a little bit of a boost. So this card is pretty good. It is decent. Again, it's like the quick play spell. But what this lacks is it being a spell speed 2. And the reason this is important is the biggest weakness of the deck that I feel like even if you are just starting with this deck is knowing that the Majespecter Orthros does not have the protection that the other Majespecters have, which is very important to keep in mind, really, because you need to know how to dodge it. And the biggest thing to keep in mind about this card is, one, it still works under Droll and Lockbird, and it plays under Ash Blossom, because this card does not do anything with the deck. Putting stuff in the extra deck does not interact with those at all. And it still sets up your full board without playing into those, which is really, really strong. Secondary is that this only loses to Imperm and Veiler. So when this gets Imperm or Veiler, the card that is going to beat that is going to be Majespecter Wind. Being able to tribute the Orthros to summon something else from the deck, and then still resolving the Orthros is really, really big, because you still end on your 2 Majespecter bodies, your 2 searches. You can still get your Secret Village if you want to. All under this, all under the Imperm or the Ash, or under the Imperm or the Veiler. But so this leads into pretty good technical play, and there are other options that you can play to subjugate this. But before we get to that, just finish talking about the field spell. Again, this card not being spell speed 2 makes that interaction way worse. Also, I'm not looking for more copies of like a field spell and 2 a 1.5 starter type card, because at the end of the day, this doesn't really accomplish anything other than being more wind. But we have enough of 1.5 starters and starters, like I don't need it. And there's never going to be a world where I'm searching this with Majesty's Pegasus, because if I'm getting the Pegasus effect, I'm already playing, so I don't need the field spell to keep playing. At that point, I'm establishing and I'm trying to hold control with the Secret Village. I really don't understand the logic behind this card, or why is it so expensive? Because so far I haven't, one, missed it, or two, even had a desire to play it, because it doesn't really come up unless you're playing like, I don't know, like a bunch of field spells like Terraforming in this, or like multiple copies. And then you're playing more Majespecter monsters, but at that point, you're cutting non-engine. And if you're cutting non-engine, I am sorry, the Majespecter deck is just not enough by itself to keep up with something like Snake Eye, where you can probably afford something like that. But again, moving forward, other card that I am not seeing played a lot in this deck is Fenrir. Fenrir is what I like to call board presence, where in Majespecter as a deck core, you don't have a lot of presence. You have a lot of small bodies that have a lot of good control aspects, but where their control aspects tribute off their own monsters, it really hurts and affects this deck deeply. And you need a card that is one big, that stays on the field, can break a board, and can remove monsters as well. And Fenrir for that is actually like the perfect spot. And I know the Fenrir itself doesn't actually benefit anything out of this. There's no synergy between Fenrir and Majespecter cards. The only way where there could be synergy is if you like start your line with Fenrir, search, I think, Rise Heart, and then I think you can still Pendulum Summon out the Rise Heart. So you can still Pendulum out the Rise Heart, and then you can overlay with the Rise Heart to go into the Draco as another level 4. But, like, that's not worth playing the Rise Heart to me. Overall, I don't think you need that line. The other line I was talking about was playing the Wind Charmer with Unicorn. I know I did a lot more research in this deck than I probably needed to, but overall, what's it called? It is her. Was using Wind with Unicorn, and then you can use Fenrir to search Unicorn, and then pitch it with Wind to be able to search like a Bambuku as your starter. But at the end of the day, the deck was just consistent enough where I wasn't craving being like a card that one plays into Droll more and that plays into Ash more. Where this deck pretty like good plays under them. I would say pretty decently. You really don't need it too much, so I didn't see the purpose of it. So for now, I am happy with not playing this and playing just the Fenrirs by themselves as bodies and interruptions. Triple Tactics Talents, I feel like this should be almost like a staple in most decks currently because of how strong this card is. This card has won me so many games of being able to like take Link off, drop a Zeus, drop a Typhon, just like different ways to interact with the board, draw cards, draw into an extender. Like there's so many different lines where this has helped. Even looking at your opponent's hand and knowing where to use stuff like your Tornado, your Tempest, and your Cyclone are really, really strong. And it can just like win a game outright because you know exactly where to interrupt them and you can just win off that. Nibiru as well, I feel like should be played in every deck. This is the hand trap that definitely affects the Snake Eye deck the most. Even though Snake Eye can play through it, it definitely does a lot, especially when you pair it with other stuff. And sometimes their hand isn't always perfect too. Sometimes their hand's awkward and they need to push for game, and the Bureau can really punish those types of plays. The last thing I wanted to talk about the main deck, actually the last two things I wanted to talk about were the number of Majespecters here and the Cyclone. But I want to start with the Cyclone. Cyclone, I am seeing a lot of decks not play. I am seeing a lot of decks online on YouTube talk about just playing the Tornado and the Tempest, but no one is playing Cyclone. I understand that this is one of the weaker cards of the deck because it destroys, and destroying is not really good into a lot of decks right now. But this card going second is extremely good. This card really, really good because a lot of the times you can, like, there'll be some hands where you can, like, normal Bambuku or Yada, use the effect and maybe you drew into Cyclone, or you can use Yada to search the Cyclone, and that is really good to be able to play into stuff, or especially if they're waiting for the Orthros and they use, like, something to negate the Orthros, and then same thing, you can Cyclone, tribute off the Orthros, pop their card, and still resolve the Orthros, and then keep going from there. Overall, I really like this card. I like Yada being able to search an interruption and not just be a extender with Wind. I want more versatility out of my cards than that, so I really like Cyclone. And then, again, talking about Foxy and Toad, these cards are obviously just more names. I want more names in this deck to be able to interact with Wind and Porcupine to be 1.5 card starters. And these could be, I've seen a lot of builds play more Draco Slayer cards, so you can do like a bigger combo type thing and play the Draco Slayer package in the extra deck. But I'm a strong believer of 3 Toad because Toad plus Porcupine is pretty much the same thing as Bambuku plus like getting Porcupine. It's no different because this is a scale 5, and that's what you care about the most. I know it's searching or setting, I should say, a Spell or Trap isn't like, it's like whatever, but that's not actually what's important. What's important is getting to Orthros with the scales. That's the most important thing. So when you are being able to do it between these two, it works out very, very well as just another good starter. Yeah, and then Foxy being able to search out either or of the traps, I think is just fine. And again, just being another name to be more interruption is just more than fine. Again, if you start with that line and you need the Foxy to be able to get Majesty, Pegasus, and Fox, and then pendulum them out, and then those two go in the Exceed for that combo line, rather than you could also go like Yada for Cyclone, but in that scenario, I'd rather have Fox anyway. So that is it for the main deck. Any other questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Those are just my thoughts behind it. And then for the extra deck, everything from Draco to the left, I have made multiple times and is coming up, and I feel like they should be here. Something that really I want to touch on that I see not a lot of people play is Artemis. Artemis is a very, very important piece of this deck because you're not always going to go into Orthros because sometimes you know that they have like interruption. And a lot of the times you might just go like Fenrir into like some Majespecter line, and then like for breaking a board, and then you can go like one of the Majespecters into Artemis, and then Artemis and the other Majespecter go into SP Little Knight to let the Little Knight trigger immediately, because other than like Artemis, there's no other way to get that unless you're going to a Link 2, and it doesn't really work. I really wish that we could play like a Charmer, like a Wind Charmer or something, but your opponents aren't playing a lot of Wind monsters in the current format. The only thing that you can really steal is like a Droll, and Droll, like, I feel like it's getting less and less popular as the format's developing because people are playing around it better and realizing that it's not stopping enough. So I'm not playing it right now, but it's definitely something to consider. But these 5 here, I am not finding myself making. Exceed the Pendulum, Beyond the Pendulum, Access Code Talker, and Appaloosa and Celine. These cards have not been coming up, like, almost at all. And it's kind of bothersome. I don't know what else to put in for here. Like, I don't need more copies of Draco. I think Baguska could have a place in this deck because you can play around, like, if you're under Shifter, maybe you could go, like, Toad, Porcupine, and then go into the Baguska, and then on the following turn, you can turn into attack mode, go to Zeus. That's, like, kind of reasonable. So I think that's like the only other thing I can think of off the top of my head that I really would like kind of want to try. But again, that's up to you. I just like having the access to the Celine to access code line because it can be really good. But again, it hasn't come up for me enough. These 2 cards I don't think I've ever summoned them. They just don't do anything. Like, they're only good if you're handling a million monsters. And as you can see, this deck is not like a pendulum deck. Maybe in like the Draco version, these would be a lot better. But for this version specifically, I just don't see it. I don't like it. They're not coming up enough. But again, if you have any suggestions of what else you could play in the extra deck, let me know down below. I'm very curious because I am building this in real life right now. And then lastly, the one thing that I feel like everyone talks about with this deck is Majespecter Kieran, the banned one. So let me bring that up for you really quickly. Kieran. So as you can see, Kieran is a scale 2 quick effect, pretty much compulse a monster on each side of the field. On your side and your opponent's side. And back in the day, Pendulum decks used this as an interruption with just Bambuku to be able to link off the Bambuku and then go into like Electromite and then Pendulum summon out the Kieran as just like a guaranteed interruption, and you didn't even commit a lot into it. In this deck specifically, if this gets unbanned for future reference, I don't know how strong it would actually be. The only synergy that with Kieran specifically in this deck is through the Exceed monster, which in my opinion is not really enough. Obviously, I think you would play it, but at the end of the day, it would be a brick. In case you were missing it, the Majespecter cards are scale 5s, and their boss monster is a level 6. So you can't even Pendulum summon this card out in its own deck, which is a very weird design choice. But overall, I don't think this card is that crazy. It's just like fine. Like, you could play the brick for the Exceed, but if it got unbanned and decks weren't playing it, I also wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, because right now for the Draco, I have been using it mostly as for going like on my opponent's turn, they tribute a guy. I tribute a guy, stop, blow something up with like, I don't know, like tornado. And then this summons out like Bambuku, get Porcupine, on the opponent's turn still to set like either wind or cyclone. That's another big interaction is like you can have Cyclone on your end board, use it on your opponent's turn, still on your opponent's turn, summon the Porcupine, reset it, and then on your turn again, use Cyclone again to pop their card. Like again, it's like, again, you have a lot more utility with spells, so this being a quick play spell and being resettable of Porcupine, I think is like really important. Obviously, Secret Village as Spellcaster, this is just a blowout card. I'm not going to like explain it. If you go first and resolve this, it's pretty devastating for 90% of decks, I would say. And then for the decks that's not good against, like maybe something like Labyrinth, I think Necro Valley has been overperforming for me. I think you could even play Necro Valley in like more, like you could just do more with Necro Valley, if I'm being honest. This deck, like Necro Valley hits probably most decks, I would say, but not all of them. Like things like Flu obviously doesn't hit, but that's where you want Secret Village. So right now I am Necro Valley sided because I think Secret Village is a little bit more generic than Necro Valley. But I have put this in against something like Labyrinth, and this card is just won me games where it was literally just like furniture, Coup Clock, activate Big Welcome, Ash it, and then I just do like a simple Majespecter line, get to Necro Valley, activate it, and they just concede because like they can't use Big Welcome, they can't bring back their furnitures. It just like will end the game right there, and they can't do anything. Labyrinth loses too much advantage from a play like that. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the deck, I think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about it because I've been doing a lot of testing with it. I don't think there is. Yeah, so overall, let me know what you guys think down below. I'm really curious of your tech choices and how you are playing the Majespecter deck. I'm really interested in that. So again, let me know what you think down below. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.